warning, there will be major spoilers for Attack on Titan and Interstellar. Delving into the fourth dimension is one of the largest risks to be taken when designing the scope of a story. But when every piece of criteria is met for it to feel as climactic as intended, it adds tremendous value to not only the story going forward, but also looking backward.
When Attack on Titan went down the path of manipulating the fourth dimension,
many fans were experiencing mixed feelings. But as discussions raged on, people quickly realized just how well all of the pieces fell into place, and that everything happened exactly as we, or Eren, were told it would. Stories are going to present themselves in the way that they wish the viewer to digest them in. Not only Attack on Titan, but another dimensional meddling franchise, Interstellar, has also nailed this aspect of deterring the viewer to believe that the narrative is heading in an entirely different direction. And it's this implementation of clever retroactive work that leads to be explained as the deterministic timeline. This also allows for such seamless incorporation of these logic-defying acts. Here I'll be talking about Attack on Titan and Interstellar's execution on the fourth dimension as a storytelling concept, and how they use the only effective method in implementing time travel into your story, the deterministic timeline. I want to give a shout out to Kuroto's Mystery Shack, as their video on this topic concerning Attack on Titan provided me with some insight to clarify how the twists and turns of that story took place. To understand how these stories truly operate is to also understand the previously mentioned concept of a deterministic timeline. It's the result of sculpting the story around this approach that prevents the feeling that it deserves a better ending or that they took a cheap way out. To start, we'll establish what we're talking about with a fourth dimension. A fourth dimension is essentially seeing the passage of time in the same way you see the physical world, something you can manipulate and interact with. In both entries, this concept is used to retroactively explain the story's course up to that point. Keep in mind that this is not retroactively altering the course of the story, it is only the continuation of what is happening in its entirety, hence being referred to as a deterministic timeline. When Cooper begins communicating with Murph in the physical manifestation of time towards the end of Interstellar, the story was meant to get to that point the entire time. He failed in accomplishing the goal in the intended way himself, but in his efforts has accumulated enough information to discover another way to see it through. Cooper going back and giving hints to Murph is not in an effort to create another timeline where everything is made right, but to allow the course of the original timeline to come to fruition. This makes it clear through Cooper himself that this is recounting one continuous story, Cooper's story and his path to allow him and his daughter to save humanity. Now, this could be a lot to digest, so maybe Attack on Titan's side of things could clarify a bit. Similar to Interstellar, Attack on Titan attempts not to change, but to explain the course of events up to its climactic resolution. To understand how AOT does this, you need to be familiar with the ability that influences everything concerning this plot point, the power of the Attack Titan. The main protagonist and also antagonist, Eren Yeager, is in possession of the blood of the Attack Titan, which was passed to him by his father, Grisha Yeager. What's so interesting about the Attack Titan is not the seemingly lackluster and boring fighting skills put on display, but its unique ability to see the memories and thoughts of future and past inheritors of the same Titan power. Now, what does that mean? I guess it was a mistake attempting to clarify Interstellar with Attack on Titan. The key point to establish with the Attack Titan is how its ability to see the thoughts and memories of the future inheritors is only through the permission of that future inheritor, in this case being Eren. Bringing this all to the actual presentation of this dimensional mischief, when Eren travels with Zeke to influence his father to commit the horrendous acts, this isn't Eren going backwards and changing anything that already happened. This is simply showing the moment in time of the original story when a past inheritor of the Attack Titan was told and shown information by a future inheritor. Eren has already been through the future of his respective story. And only through this fact is it made possible for there to be retroactivity involving both of these characters and how they attempt to alter the course of their realities for the better.
俺は生まれた時から俺のままだ。
With both Attack on Titan and Interstellar leaving their blatant explanations of this feature till their ending acts, it allows for the viewer to form desires for how they want or expect the story to conclude. The twist of a deterministic timeline requires this diversion to be a strong one, as it's attempting to make you 180 your view on everything you've interpreted so far. Interstellar presents itself as a film to watch full of hope. Hope that the human race will find a way to prosper and survive given the conditions they're in. It by no means tips you off to the fact that it's working in a retroactive manner the entire time, and it may be difficult to wrap your head around the fact that you didn't grasp what a certain piece of dialogue meant on an initial viewing. Characters in both titles mention seemingly random bits of information disguised in the form of passing dialogue.
いや、そうじゃなくて、俺はここに来たことがある。
This is able to be taken as nothing to pay attention to. Why would you care for more than a second about why Eren is familiar with the Crystal Underground when he has seemingly never been there before? It's only a single line of dialogue. You aren't supposed to care about it. You haven't been given context for anything involving these caves yet. Hell, you haven't even seen the first Grisha scene yet. The reason why the viewer is so driven to investigate and theorize further about the Titans at the drop of a hat in the earlier seasons is because they're never brought up without some sort of vague context where they can realistically infer some conclusions. With Reiner and his Titan powers constantly being thrown into the mix in seemingly every scenario that pops up in the new seasons, it can be hard to remember when we were theorizing and pairing him as being the Armor Titan in the first place. Our priorities and what we were trying to solve were in entirely different stratospheres from what was truly taking place the entire time. But there was enough mystery involving the identity and origins of the Titans we had met that kept us thinking we were cracking the real case. This diversion can't feel forced either. It needs to feel as if it was the natural course of the story the entire time.
You're on the edge of your seat when Cooper and the rest of the crew are struggling to find any sort of habitable planet.
As if what is happening at that point in time is the end-all be-all for the story. The viewer takes on a similar point of view to the characters involved in this chaos as they seem to know no better themselves, which leads into providing a sense of hopelessness towards the solution to Earth's impending doom. This execution of planting the same sense of hopelessness on the viewer allows for the dimensional twist to feel less as a cheap way out to finish the plot and just the right solution to finish the story's narrative. As soon as you think you know what's going on in these stories, the writers have you right in their trap. In Attack on Titan, you get told you didn't know what was going on the entire time once. And then you think you can watch the rest of the show knowing the truth, and then it happens again. Is this even possible without feeling like you're being strung along? The answer is only yes because of how well the scenes in both these franchises that you have already watched and can go back and rewatch are better experienced while being privy to this information with the power of hindsight. This is why it's such a risky endeavor to bring your plot into the realm of time travel, because there are so many pieces of criteria that need to be met for it to work as intended. There have been an incredible amount of ways that various franchises implement some sort of time travel. And in nearly every form opposed to the deterministic timeline, it seems to either fall flat or cause an absurd amount of confusion and sometimes even retcons aspects of the story that have been previously established. It's examples of the deterministic timeline shown in such masterpieces as Interstellar and Attack on Titan that surely cement it as one of, if not the most clear-cut way to implement dimensional mischief into your story. Not only is the viewer allowed to have a eureka moment as they piece the plot together, that moment is done in such a way that encourages second and maybe even third watch-throughs as you discover footprints that hinted at the overarching narrative the whole time. It takes so many working parts to have this twist pulled off correctly that only titles such as these were able to make it feel so seamless. If you enjoyed this video, please check out the rest of my channel and consider leaving a like and subscribing, as it really helps me out. Thank you.